What's up, everybody? It's Vicious here of the Immersive Arcade, and today I'm going to be commentating on this video about Soul Calibur 6 being a soulless cash grab. There's a lot of things this dude, who I'm not very familiar with, says in this video that kind of caught me off guard a bit. Not because I don't have a rebuttal for it, not like it was directly to me or anything, but I have an answer to most things that he says in this entire video, and his friends you'll see. And I just wanted to cut Soul Calibur 6 a break because right now it's in a rough spot, to be honest, and it's not because the game is bad. It's in a rough spot because we don't know if it's going to get another patch, another season, or anything along those lines. And the main thing people are talking about is rollback netcode instead of like actually patching things. It's kind of, annoying to deal with in the game. So anyway, without further ado, let's get to the video.
Welcome back to Game Nights. I am Sir Shadrach of Versity, and I want to talk about what I feel is one of the best examples of the problem that we are seeing with games in the modern day. What am I talking about? I'm talking about disingenuous, low quality, low effort cash.
Okay, so right off the bat, let me just say Anthem was not disingenuous. People just be making up different things to fucking make fun of Anthem. Anthem definitely was ambitious. The problem lied within the development of the game. Obviously, a lot of people left. A lot of people weren't happy with the way the product turned out. Nobody wanted to stick around to make it grow. They wanted to make another version of Anthem that would fix those problems, similarly to No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky sucked when it came out, and now it's a decent game. Cyberpunk I don't really have a defense for, but a low-hanging fruit, man. Come on.
Grabs that are just there.
Yeah, the cash grab thing, by the way, I see a lot of sports games, and you're gonna have sports games every year. This has been established since the 90s. I wouldn't exactly call it a cash grab. I like to think that the studios that make these games, they try their best to try to improve some things. I'm not familiar with that world, but my brother, he plays sports games and he gets it every year, and there are things he can take or leave.
They throw, the
But this
idea of the
is
consumer
a lot of
warfare
nothing
out the
going
window
on.
because they
Just dunking on EA.
annoying thing is Soul Calibur 6. Now, I've been a fan of the Soul Calibur franchise for...
What do you say? What annoying thing?
This annoying thing is
Whatever.
Soul Calibur 6. Now, I've been a fan of the Soul Calibur franchise.
Get your hands off your hips, man. It's like a teacher trying to tell you about something that's new and hip or something. He says a lot of things that kind of gets under my skin, I'm not gonna lie, because they're so ill-informed, and that's why I'm already aggro at this dude. But he says he's been a Soul Calibur game since the original, right? Which he means Soul Blade, which is Soul Blade in the US. I thought it was Soul Blade in the UK and Europe as well, but I guess it's Soul Edge. Yeah, so he'll go on and tell you.
Ages. I remember when I first saw it, okay? Previous to that, the fighting games are always just people fighting, and I remember I was at my local bowling alley, and they had a small arcade there, and I walked into it, and I saw this fighting game, and instead of fighting with fists, they were fighting with swords. Now, if you know anything about me, that's the type of thing that grabs my interest. This was like amazing, a fighting game with swords. I was like, why hasn't anyone done this before then?
Well, it's been done before then. If you do a little bit of research, I can't really blame him for, going back to a time when he was a kid and he first discovered it. But, Samurai Showdown existed, Last Blade existed, I'm almost certain. In Nintendo 64, you had Weapon Lord, etc., so on and so forth. Mace is another game with weapons. It just continues. It just goes on and on and on. But, was this one of the pioneers? Sure. That's a little nitpick. I'm just throwing that out there.
About time. And so since then, I basically loved the Soul Calibur franchise. And in fact, that first game actually wasn't a Soul Calibur. It was Soul Edge, one of the really old ones. Now,
one of the really old ones. Like, Oh, Jesus. Why did he put up Soul Calibur's fucking title screen name first then?
There have been better and worse iterations in the Soul Calibur series, and you'd like...
Okay, I want you to pay attention real quick. I know I'm pausing a lot, but look at this picture. This picture is tacky. It's like they Googled a bunch of the characters from Soul Calibur's entire history and they put them all together, and then they just put some shit from Soul Calibur 5 in the background, right? So we got Soul Calibur 4 guest characters. We got The Apprentice. We got Darth Vader. We got Soul Calibur 2 guest characters. We got Link. You know, Heihachi's probably somewhere in there. There's Yoda. There's Kratos. Obviously, those are guest characters, and this is important to point this out because of what he says later.
like to think, you'd hope,
Had to make a quick edit there. Anyway, let's continue.
that each new one brings new stuff to the actual game. And usually, the Soul Calibur series did. The sequel would bring in a new character. I was like, oh, you got a new character, new weapon set, and everything like that. And there might be a new single-player story to enjoy.
A new character. Normally in Soul Calibur, they give you more than one new character. I think Soul Calibur 4 might be the only outlier, right? They put Hilda in there. I don't remember any other. Oh, Hilda and Algol. How could I ever forget Algol? So, yeah, it's always been more than one character. So, it's really odd that he used a character as, like, you know, one of the bases, his basis for, like, what a new Soul Calibur game might have. And as for a new single player story, yeah, they all had a new single player story. Some, like he says, you could take or leave, you know, better or worse. I think Soul Blade had a better single player story possibly than Soul Calibur 1. But, you know what, that's just my opinion. Let's go.
And then they add additional features. Eventually, they added in character creation so you could make your own character.
And Soul Calibur 3.
Like, that was so awesome. And each new sequel, not only did you get the character that was added in the last one, so it kept the content it gave you in the last, you know, installment of the series, then it would give you more. They were always adding something to it.
That's true, but it's also not true because they take stuff out and they put stuff in. Sometimes they put stuff in and they don't take anything out of the game, you know. And this is common for all fighting games. We can talk about any other fighting game and I'll tell you just about the same story. You want to talk about Tekken? And Tekken 2, a lot of the cast got replaced, or sometimes, in some cases, didn't get replaced till years later. Jun Kazama was in Tekken 2. She didn't get replaced until Tekken 5. Tekken 2 came out in 1997. Tekken 5 didn't come out till 2005. You know? Michelle was replaced by Julia, etc., etc. Jin replaced Kazuya. Like, there's a lot of things that happen between generational shifts in fighting games. Like, we could talk about Super Street Fighter 2, and how Street Fighter 2 Alpha has way less characters than Super Street Fighter 2. We could talk about Guilty Gear XX having less Guilty Gear Xrd having less characters than Guilty Gear XX. You know, we can go there, but, you know, we're focusing on Soul Calibur, and for Soul Calibur, you did nothing but gain characters in Soul Calibur 1, and technically you lost 2 or 3 in Soul Calibur 2, because Huang wasn't a really fleshed out character. They sort of made him a clone, and what else? They got rid of Edgemaster, and Rock was... They made a character named Berserker who, you know, I don't know the lore behind him. He might have been Rock. I'm not entirely sure. But he wasn't fleshed out either because they had Astaroth taking the place of Rock. And in Soul Calibur 3, you know, they introduced extra characters. Extra characters, what I mean by extra character is there were special characters that weren't a part of the main roster of Soul Calibur 3. And these special characters had movesets, but again, they weren't fully fleshed out. Think of things that you would see in a character on Soul Calibur, you know, like a quarter circle forward movement, or hitting A and K, which is a horizontal attack and kick at the same time while sidestepping. Stuff like that you might find in a Soul Calibur character at that point in time. There's some characters that didn't have those moves or had nothing to fill those moves, or if you press two buttons in a certain direction, you might not get a different attack than one of those buttons. They weren't fleshed out characters, is what I'm saying. But Soul Calibur 3, if you want to count that, it still had all the characters, right? I think except for Edgemaster and Charade, possibly, and Necrid, which we'll get to. Now, Soul Calibur 4 flat out didn't have Huang. They had Rock. They didn't have Charade. They didn't have Edgemaster. And who else did they not have? There's like another character. They didn't have Inferno, and they did not have Night Terror, nor did they have Abyss. But, we'll continue.
Until recently. And this is where we come to Soul Calibur 6.
By the way, I know I said we'll get to it, but Soul Calibur 6 has more characters and more coherent storylines than Soul Calibur 5. He will mention Soul Calibur 5 quite a bit. And Soul Calibur 5, how do I explain this? It's a generational shift in characters. It's like what Tekken 3 was to Tekken 2, right? So there's a lot of characters that are missing. There are some characters that are in the game for no reason, like Mitsurugi, and so on and so forth. And there was a story reason for why it was a generational shift. It was years later. They never really gave us a reason for all the fighters not being there, but it was years later. Like, I think about 20 years after Soul Calibur 4 or something like that.
Now, Soul Calibur 6, the gameplay's fun, and the character creation in it is probably, it's almost a direct copy of the previous one. So, and the previous one was great.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a direct copy. There's a lot of different things you can do, like adding different textures and different patterns to different outfits. By the way, his gameplay is trash in the background.
So you can't really praise the character creation too much, but the character creation in Soul Calibur 5 was great off the bat. And so, of course, Soul Calibur 6 character creation would be great as well, you would assume. But then there's everything else. And this is where we come to the big problem. For the first time in the series, not only did they not give you all the things that they had given before, all the characters and things like that, they actively withheld content in the release of Soul Calibur 6 and made you pay for the stuff that you got for free in the previous installments as DLC. Like think about that. They purposefully made a version of the game of lower quality. They withheld content and then made you pay for it.
How is it of lower quality? Everything about Soul Calibur 6 is better than Soul Calibur 5. The gameplay meta is better overall. There's like several different things that I could tell you about Soul Calibur 6 is better than Soul Calibur 5. One, guard impact doesn't take meter. Two, the movement is better. They nerfed movement in Soul Calibur 5 after like a couple patches. There's not a fast, quick sidestep like there was in Soul Calibur 5, but that's because the movement is so much better in Soul Calibur 6. You don't have EX moves in Soul Calibur 6 unless you're Yoshimitsu. And there's, what's it called? Why am I forgetting it right now? Soul Charge. They got Soul Charge. Like, there's so many different things that they did in this game. They added lethal hits, which is kind of like Fatal Blow if you play Mortal Kombat. And, the gameplay has been changed drastically and has been changed to be more palatable. Not necessarily easier. They did make it a bit easier for beginners, but I think they added a lot more for professional players to sink their teeth into, right? But he's not talking about that. He's talking about some casual bullshit that doesn't really even matter to, I'm guessing, a lot of people, because he's talking about them not putting in costumes from Soul Calibur 5 unless you pay for them. One, Soul Calibur 5 is a fucking PS3 game, idiot. It came out in 2011. This game came out in 2017. I'm sorry, 2018. Soul Calibur 5 was 7 years old at that fucking point. So, of course it needed a fucking update. They had to update some of the costumes. And if you didn't buy the costumes, then it's totally fine. You still have plenty of costumes to customize and shit. Normally when you buy a fighting game, you're buying it because, you know, you're interested in the story and or the gameplay, you know, of said fighting game. And when it comes to this customization complaint, it's just trivial to me. Because it's like, okay, so if you enjoy the gameplay, enjoy the game and the characters, like you said, since Soul Calibur, I'm sorry, Soul Blade or Soul Edge, whatever you want to call it, then why is getting DLC characters, getting a pass so fucking hard for you? That shit was like fucking, how much was Soul Calibur Season 1 pass? I think that shit was like $15. Shit was like $15, and let's just say it was $15, and it came with outfits. But the main draw was the characters that aren't even supposed to be in Soul Calibur 1 through 2. Because, remember, Soul Calibur 6 is a reboot of the storyline from Soul Calibur 1 to 2. Right? They added characters in from Soul Calibur 3 and 4 and, not 5. Soul Calibur 3 and 4 and put them in the timeline and updated the story so they place somewhere in the timeline. I commend them for that.
And these are things that came standard in the game in previous versions. Unbelievably lazy and cheap. And that's why I say
Lazy
this
and
is
cheap.
a just despicable, soulless, you know, no pun intended there, cash grab.
Well, if there was a pun intended, it wasn't funny.
To just cash in on the series. We got the series, people like it, they like fighting, and even he
I love how he glosses over they like fighting.
keeps the assets in Soul Calibur 6 are directly copied over from Soul Calibur 5. It's like the only effort they did was
Directly copied over. It's brand new stages, it's brand new meta, it's a brand new gameplay, it's brand new lighting. Everything about Soul Calibur 6 is new. It's not Soul Calibur 5. The people like this make me sick because they think that you should be able to put whatever on whatever system and it should automatically up-res it or make it to the same quality. Like, no, man. That's the point in people going in and actually doing shit to the fucking the outfits. And you know, he's saying that, you know, we got shafted, right? Because they're lazy and they included this in the past or whatever. This is what I had to say to that. So what happened when you played Soul Calibur 3 and then you went to Soul Calibur 4 and none of the outfits were there at all? Or when you went from Soul Calibur 4 to 5 and in Soul Calibur 5 they charged you for Soul Calibur 4 outfits that weren't in 5? I'm pretty sure they did that. Correct me if I'm wrong. If they didn't, then they weren't in fucking Soul Calibur 5 then. So where was this video then? You didn't have the equipment? Why is Soul Calibur 6 the game you choose to do this for?
they added Geralt, you know, the new character you can play. And again, new character is fun, but then there are staple characters.
A new character to play Geralt. Okay, so they added more than Geralt. They added Aswell, and they also added Grow to the roster in Soul Calibur 6. You know, Geralt's a guest character. Stop pointing out people who point out guest characters. They kind of irritate me because it's like you're not even playing the game for the game itself. You're playing it for novelty.
Characters, in some instances, that were introduced as new characters, but then they became staple characters, like Hilda, like Amy, Tira, Cassandra, Huang, Setsuka. These are characters that were just part of the series previous, not, you know, every iteration, but they became, and you actually have to pay for them now.
Huang has not been available since Soul Calibur 3. That game came out in 2005. It is 2021 and Soul Calibur 6 came out in 2018. Setsuka has not been in Soul Calibur since Soul Calibur 4. That was in 2008, is 2021. And again, SC6 came out in 2018. That's 10 years. It's 10 years. Her moveset is way not updated. Of course she's fucking DLC. She's not even supposed to be in the timeline right now. This is Soul Calibur 1 through 2. They fit her in and gave her some story up to 3. So what the fuck is he complaining about? Tira wasn't in the game till 3 either. She doesn't place right now. It's a reboot, man. And again, reworking entire movesets. Why doesn't this fool get it?
And this is just one glaring point of reference about how lazy they were in Soul Calibur 6. But there's more, okay?
It's like you looked up returning characters in Soul Calibur 6 and all those characters popped up as DLC and he's like, what?
Okay, if you...
Amy was never even like a real fucking character. Like, can we be honest about that? She was in 4, but that's the only game that she was like a real character with a rapier.
You have a look at the single-player story mode campaign, it is the most lazy, cheap piece of junk, boring as anything, okay? I mean, one of the best single-player missions that they had in the Soul Calibur series, Chronicles of the Sword in Soul Calibur 3 had...
That was not a fucking story mode. So Chronicles of the Sword was like its own like generic story, and it was well thought out, I'll say that, but it still was like a generic story for your nameless character.
This awesome kind of open world map where you had your character moving around.
It wasn't open world, it was like a tower defense game. I played it on my channel if you want to check that out.
And you could choose where you're going to, and there were random encounters and then story events and things like that. And it was actually a really interesting, really fun, engaging.
No, the real story mode was Tales of the Soul and Soul Calibur 3, where they had rival cutscenes, they had interactive endings and interactive cutscenes in the game. It was really good, but he's highlighting a tower defense game because this is more his forte, which I can't blame him. I like Chronicles of the Sword too.
Story mode. In this one, it is such low effort garbage.
Okay, that's a little fucked up. Like, how are you gonna say it's low effort garbage? Look at your fucking outfit, dude. Like, so there's a lot of art in Soul Calibur 6, and that is very prototypical of the series. And Soul Calibur 1, when you beat the game, you had like a rival cutscene, right? And then when you beat the game, it'd just be one still image, right? And the same thing for Soul Calibur 2. Soul Blade, Soul Calibur 3, 4, and 5 differ in this matter. Well, 5 just had one story. But, yeah. So, this is prototypical of Soul Calibur 1 and 2. So, this is actually a callback, but this idiot doesn't recognize it. He wants moving pictures. And I get it. This isn't for everybody. But, you know, give you some more information about me. I play Blaze Blue. And they normally have a picture with them moving their mouths. They'll go into a different position, move their mouths, look angry, look chill. You know what I'm saying? Like, things like that. And, you know, it's still entertaining. You're listening to the voice acting, and you got to understand what's happening in the story. You got to understand the seriousness, and you got to see what's going on, you know, with the tones of their voice, and you just got to follow along. There's nothing wrong with that. Tekken did a fully animated story mode. It sucked. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very well written. I think Soul Calibur 6 has well-written storylines. If you need moving pictures, fine. Whatever. You need animation, that's fine. But don't say that this is low effort, because they put a lot more effort into the writing and the art than anything, you know? Not only that, but he says it's the same pictures. It's not even the same fucking pictures. If you go through Soul Calibur 6 and go through the individual story modes, it's different pictures, it's different settings, it's different times. Like, he's just being dramatic.
Where they couldn't even be bothered with voice recording or anything like that. It's just written text that appears, and they don't bother with animations or any beginning story. It's just a 2D picture of a character that appears with text, and it's always the same picture. That's how insanely low effort it is, and the story is just some generic, boring garbage where...
You know, there is some animation in Soul Calibur 6, and it's funny that he mentioned that, and he puts in the slideshow part of the animation within like the main story mode where Siegfried gets taken over by Soul Edge. So that's ridiculous. You know, he's flat out lying about that, right? Like, we can prove that right now by this. If you go to Soul Calibur story mode, the main story mode, you're going to see this cutscene. And you're probably going to see some other stuff too, but not a lot.
Oh, you're going this thing, you're after this thing, you're under someone, they fight. You're under someone, they fight. You're under someone, they fight. Oh, and it's amazing how low effort it is, and especially when you compare it to what Soul Calibur 3 had.
That's not the fucking story mode for Soul Calibur 3. This guy is so stupid.
It's night and day. So
you want to know what Soul Calibur 3's real story mode was? You read some text, and then you go to the next battle, just like he says he hates, but that's the real story mode for the game. Chronicles of the Sword is for your created character. You like the live action role play, and basically he's role playing in a fighting game. That's why he's mixed up.
So we have reused assets, we have content that you usually got in a normal Soul Calibur release that was actively withheld to make you pay for it.
It's normally released. Okay, so if there's an old costume in a game, you don't have to fucking buy it. I just want to tell you guys that right now. You don't have to fucking buy it unless you really, really want to. But if you have a new game and it has some new content for you, you can't really complain about them making you pay to buy some old shit. I love to complain about Tekken not having the ability to customize your hairstyles from like sideburns and shit and bangs like they used to in Tag 2, but they haven't made me pay for anything. It's not in the plan for them. This is just extra, and he's complaining about extra shit offered to him.
Further on, and then you have incredibly low effort 2D, just simple text story mode things that there's barely any content there to enjoy. The only way you can...
There's a ton of that content to enjoy. Some of these story modes, like if you play Huang's story mode, the most recent character in the like season pass, the last character in season 2, Huang's story lasts like a good hour and some change.
You can get long-term enjoyment.
Maybe even an hour and a half. He's like, oh, boring, it's not enough. Like, that's a ton of content. That's a lot of voice acting and story going on. If you don't appreciate it, that's on you.
Or any play out of Soul Calibur is by fighting people, perhaps online or, you know, just with your mates and stuff like that.
Why is he so shifty-eyed? Yeah, that's what fighting games normally boil down to. You fight with your friends online or locally. Or you just fight the computer. Why is it so different? Like, what is he expecting? I don't know any other fighting game that has crazy content that makes you do anything other than fighting besides maybe Tekken and Tekken Bowl. And that shit doesn't even have an online mode, so nobody plays it.
But for single player, it's got nothing. Or what I feel amounts to nothing because of how dull and boring it is. And seriously, compare this to other fighting games where you look at, say, Injustice, which has kind of...
Injustice has nothing. Injustice has a story mode, it has animations, and that's about it. I mean, it's an alright story mode. It was a fucking story mode from a Justice League arc, but, you know, that's about it. I'm not the biggest fan of Injustice, but did they make you pay for fucking costumes and that too?
Of animated cutscenes and an ongoing story in the fighting and things like that, compared to the low-tier garbage you get.
Can we also, like, appreciate the fact that Soul Calibur 6 is a fully 3D fighting game, and you know, it's cranked out new stages, new characters with tons of moves in their move sets. Like, I'm talking about over 50 moves in each move set probably. And Injustice is a fucking fighting game, a 2D fighting game, which probably when you look at the other side of the fucking camera, there's nothing on the other side. You know, there's probably nothing on the other side of the things that are 2D in the background. And yeah, like, yeah, you can interact with some objects, but do you really think it's fucking easier, or that, you know, they're more energetic because they program a 2D fighting game with some fucking with a 3D animated story mode? Are you crazy?
Yeah, in Soul Calibur.
Each character has like fucking probably 14 moves on Injustice. Well, no, let me not say that. It has combos. No, they probably got a good, like, probably like a good 25 per character.
6, it's unbelievable. And so, I don't know what's happened with the developers. They just lost the plot. They want to, you know, because the sad thing is, I think they are making bank on it. And that's the worst part about this. I bought Soul Calibur 6 because I was a fan of the franchise and everything.
You know why the developers are making bank off of it? If they are, they haven't released sales numbers, but they said that it did pretty well. You know, Soul Calibur is a fun game, and people want to pay and support the game. Soul Calibur has been a series that has not had a lot of faith behind it after 4. They said that they weren't going to do Soul Calibur again after 4. 5 came out. 5 sold like 1.2 mil the first year. And, you know, they fired the director of 5. because he just wasn't making good decisions. I can only assume. And then 6 came out of nowhere, and 6 is fucking grand. 6 has done well with the fucking DLC. I don't know anybody who owns Soul Calibur 6 and just doesn't have the DLC, you know? And that's not a bad practice. Most fucking fighting games in this day and age have season passes. They give you a allotted amount of content, and if you want more, you can pay for more. It's that simple.
Like that, and you buy the season pass because sometimes what if the DLC was actually adding content on top, like the original formula where the new game came out and you got everything that you got in the previous installment, and then there was new kind of content, and that's when they might be able to justify paying for brand new characters and special novelty characters like 2B, or Grok kind of came with a release, I think, but then you have
Okay, I don't know if he's being like intentionally racist or what. It's not funny, whatever he said, but he said Huang earlier, so him saying "oh boo boo boo" like a clown, that doesn't do anything.
That guy? Alright. So yeah, totally. I reckon you.
By the way, he made this video a month ago. Soul Calibur it came out in 2018, I believe in October. Soul Calibur is kissing 3 years old, and what did this idiot just buy the game? And if you just bought the game, you can get Soul Calibur for like discount on like a fucking discount site for probably like $12 or $20 right now. If you get both season passes, that's just probably like, at this point, it probably costs like $35 to buy Soul Calibur with season 1 and 2. What the fuck is he bitching about?
You could just.
You spent less money on your fucking LARPing outfit. Maybe you have enough money to actually buy some DLC for your fucking game that you didn't support when it came out.
Something that's actually adding to the series that wasn't there before. But seriously, holding back content that you already had in previous games, repurposing assets and making people pay for it. Like, seriously, there are like characters.
I had to keep driving this home. Soul Calibur 5 came out 10 years ago, and 7 years away from Soul Calibur 6. So, him saying that, it's like a whole brand new audience. And really, how fucking much did you play Soul Calibur 5? Have you played Soul Calibur 5 within the past 3 or 4 years? If the answer is no, shut the fuck up. You don't miss those outfits. You don't even remember what outfits are on 5. You just looked up on a forum and seen that, this wasn't 5.
Creation assets that are just completely lifted out of the previous game, and they're making you pay for it in this installment. It is so disingenuous, it is so lazy, so low effort, such a blatant cash grab that, I do not recommend it. And by the way, even though I've bought Soul Calibur 6,
who the fuck are you to make a recommendation for a fighting game anyway? Normally people who recommend fighting games like fighting games. It doesn't sound like this guy likes fighting games. Like, it sounds like he's ass hurt because it didn't have a fucking tower defense mode like in Soul Calibur 3. Which, boo-hoo. Soul Calibur 3 came out... Soul Calibur 3 came out in 2005. That shit came out over 10 years ago.
It took me a couple of hours to get just insanely bored with it. And the only type of additional enjoyment I get is the character creation, because you can do some pretty fun things with character creation. Like, and again, this is just a copy of the previous character creation, by the way.
It's not a copy. You didn't see creations like this in Soul Calibur 5. I just want to fucking reiterate that. There's a lot more things you could do in Soul Calibur 5 with textures, patterns, and even positioning of certain items that you can have around you. They added new items, they added new customizations. They've added more since Soul Calibur 6 came out, which is what the progression of a fighting game is nowadays. I know people hate that sometimes because, DLC, like this fucking crybaby. But hey, remember when Street Fighter, you had to buy a whole new fucking version? Remember you had to buy Street Fighter 2 and then Super Street Fighter 2? You remember when fucking Tekken 5 came out, then Tekken 5 DR came out? Like, what the fuck is he even crying about?
But the idea that you can add in textures and images, maps and stuff on top of the things to give him a different look. Like, do you see the guy I made here? Does he look somewhat similar to me? And I was able to get the brigandine, look by adding a polka dot texture and then changing the colors and stuff. So the character creation is fun. But the problem is, after you make this...
I'll break your arm jacking yourself off there.
Really awesome character, you want to do something with it. You want to enjoy, engaging with him on a long kind of story, and you want to see this character interact with other characters.
That doesn't happen on any fighting game. and character creation. And there is a mode in Soul Calibur 6 which I don't frequent because I didn't really care for creating characters like that, where you actually use that character to advance the story with as well and grow. Obviously, you didn't do that.
And have possible different outcomes and stuff. That's why a really engaging kind of story mode, like they had in Soul Calibur 3.
Again, this is not the fucking story mode for Soul Calibur 3.
Is actually a huge...
This is Chronicles of the Sword. This is an extra content game that's pretty fun.
benefit to a fighting game, and it seems like the only thing that they're really trying to sell Soul Calibur 6 on, or the long-term play, is the multiplayer aspect. But no, a single-player campaign is really important too, because it helps you...
Shout out to Kunimitsu.
Keeps, like, for people who don't enjoy multiplayer as much, okay, it keeps you, like, I'm not going to be buying Soul Calibur 7. Soul Calibur 6 is absolute garbage. I would need, like, a massive recommendation to show that I haven't done all this stupid stuff from some...
This dude's an idiot. Okay, so, look. It's not stupid because they played their strengths on the fighting and on the fucking combat. You know, they do have a lot of story content there, you just don't like it. Because you want to see moving fucking animations. And that's on you. Grow up, dude.
Someone I trust to even have a look at Soul Calibur 7 if they ever make one. The thing that keeps me sticking around is having some actual meaty gameplay I can enjoy, especially with these awesome characters that I can make, and then interject.
He's looking for meaty gameplay, but he doesn't want to actually play the game.
Get them into story and things like that, and Soul Calibur 6 has nothing like that at all. And so literally sometimes I just hop on there to make a character, and then I got nothing to... It's a soulless kind of endeavor, but I love character creation so much, and it's got such a detailed one, but then I got nothing to do. It's...
He's like, I love to create characters, but I don't like to do anything with them. That's great. Like, I don't know if you're scared to play the game because you get your ass beat or what, but, you know, you look like an asshole. Like, even more so than that outfit makes you look.
So, yes, Soul Calibur 6 is a soulless version that does not nearly have the caliber that previous iterations had. But I'm not the only one who's been disappointed with this amongst the game nights. In fact, Sir Ben has some things to share as well on how despicable and garbage tier the treatment of Soul Calibur 6 has been.
Hey everyone, Sir Ben here. I've also been a fan of the Soul Calibur series for a very long time. It's actually why I invested money in Soul Calibur 6. I heard that it was going to be a reiteration of Soul Caliburs 1 and 2, which is where I was introduced to the game. All my favourite characters are from those games, and so I was jumping straight back into a blast from the past. I was ecstatic.
Every character from Soul Calibur 1 through 4 is in Soul Calibur 6 except for Yun Sung, Rock, Algol, Aeon, and Charade and Edgemaster. So most of the characters. And Dampier.
And then I bought the game, I opened the game, I started playing the game, and I realised there was something missing.
What is it?
Necrid. My absolute...
That's from Avoiding the Puddle. They should have a copyright strike on there. But Necrid, I believe... Somebody told me that Necrid was like a collaboration character. And, you know, Necrid is basically the same as getting Aswell. Just use Aswell. Turn Aswell green. Fucking create a character that looks like Necrid but has Aswell style.
Most favourite character. I mean, look at the guy. He is beautiful. I mean, the spikes on his arm and the glowy thing on his chest, and just he looks menacing and horrible and just amazing. And
tacky.
The way he played was just incredible. I absolutely loved being able to be this hulking.
This is one of the few people I know that actually like Necrid.
I am now. And I could just pull weapons out of thin air, and they took that. I mean, yes, sure, okay, they have the main antagonist in the game. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Aswell.
Who can, you know, make weapons appear and do all those sorts of things. But Necrid could too. And he did it so much better.
No, he didn't.
I was so looking forward to having him back in the game, and I was so looking forward to just reliving my childhood.
That's why nobody used Necrid.
To just tear others to shreds. And
you know, when Soul Calibur 2 HD Remix came out, or HD came out, like all those years ago on PS3 or 360, I never seen a single Necrid.
Can't.
I've got something I'd like to say.
Hi, I'm Oz, and when I heard about this, yeah, I was really, really upset and angry too. I haven't played any of the games. I'm just really upset and angry.
So
corny.
clearly, the disappointment
Very
and
corny.
low quality of Soul Calibur 6 is having a true detrimental effect on not only its fan base, but people outside of the fan base. It is a travesty, an abomination in the series. Don't buy it. It's absolute garbage, and I'm going to downvote it. Hey, I've never done a Steam review.
Don't do a Steam review, man. Like, this is a problem with some people that look at fighting games. They look at fighting games and they expect something else out of them than what it's actually in the fucking genre. Don't buy a fighting game and expect a fucking tower defense game. I don't think that you should even buy a fighting game just off the strength of the story. That's a little ridiculous, you know, unless you really enjoy Mortal Kombat's story. But I don't know another fighting game that's that palatable to people, you know. Maybe Tekken with its whatever they have going on. The story hasn't been good since Tekken 5. Don't mistake a fucking animated story for a good one. Alright? That's something I like to say about the story. But besides the story, that's a pretty fucking weird reason to buy a fighting game, period, right? Not just for the story. Well, yeah, just for the story. If you bought a fighting game just for the story and any alternative besides playing with people or playing the computer and fighting them, I think that you have your priorities mixed up. And if you can't generate $15 fucking dollars or pre-order a game that comes with a free fucking DLC character, you know, put $5 down. I think you got bigger problems than, you know, fucking DLC from 4 games ago coming back as something you gotta pay for. You know, maybe spend a little less fucking money on that fake sword you got on and, you know, put it into this if you're so into games. But it seems disingenuous that you get on here to talk about a game that's already in, I don't know, in limbo right now because we don't know what's going on with it. You know, don't come on fucking 3 years later just to be like, I wouldn't get this game. It's not even a retro game. Like, what the fuck is this for? They're like, he's like, don't get Soul Calibur if it's $5. Like, all right. Thanks for your fucking support, bro. This is the reason why games are dying. Great. Anyway, that's it for me.